Welcome crafters, and thanks for stopping by. Today we're making ornament tags or just an ornament for the tree. I made this one. It's stacked 3 high where I cut the die out 3 times. I do not like how it turned out. The sequences and stuff get stuck. The pocket for the shaker is just not thick enough. So I made 2 more test runs at 10. I stacked 10 and oh my goodness, the shakers really move on this one. I used the Honeybee Snow Bunnies set to make this. This set's not available anymore, but if you have it in your stash, pull it out. I used the Honeybee Ornament and Snow Globe shaker set, which I'll link below, along with a couple of others that you might be interested in, but you could put to and from on the back. But for today's demonstration, I will be using Lawn Fawn, Here We Go A-Waddling, which is available, and I've linked that below. But I really want you to think about this. Look at all your Christmas stamps or snowman stamps. Look in your stash. See what you could use to make these shakers. You don't have to use the same stamp sets. Reuse something like I did with these penguins. Let me show you what we used to make this shaker. So I've cut this out 10 times using this die, as well as a red metallic frame for the front using that same die. And here I have a purple metallic frame, a red metallic frame, and this is just out of white cardstock, just so you can see the differences. Next, I cut out 2 white backgrounds, you'll see why in a minute, as well as a piece of acetate for the window using this die. And then for the ornament topper, I have used metallic and I've cut that out twice. To adhere these dies together, I've gotten out this sheet. This sheet I use for inking, and I'm going to use it so I don't get glue on my work surface because I just cleaned it. So I'm using Barely Art glue, and I'm going to put a small amount of glue around. You don't want to put too much glue around because it's going to squish out on the sides. So you just want to do a small amount. And then you are going to stack 10 of these on top of each other, gluing each one, taking your time and making sure that they line up properly, because that's important for the finished look of your ornament. Now I used 100-pound cardstock to do this ornament because I wanted it to be very substantial feeling. I really love how this came together, and I love the fact that you could use so many different ways or different stamps to decorate these ornaments. I think they'll be adorable on top of a package or even as a tag on a present. Now I'm going to continue to stack these, but I did get too much glue on here. So if you have a microfiber cloth, you want to make sure that you get the glue as you go along. I just had a paper towel at the moment, so I wanted to get that glue off of there so that it's not seen. I'm going to continue to stack these, and I will be back once I have them all glued together. I have them all glued together, and I'm going to set that aside to dry. I am going to use the same mat to do some Distress Oxide coloring to create my background. And the colors that I chose today are Wilted Violet, Marine, Mermaid Lagoon and Tumble Glass. So I'm going to start out with the Wilted Violet. What I love about Distress Oxide ink is that it's very forgiving and it's easy to put down. And while it looks like a mess, I think in the end for this ornament, it turns out wonderfully. And I'm not doing the best blending job just because I want to quickly show you how to do this. Another great thing about making your own background is you can change up the colors and go with whatever looks best with the items that you have colored to put onto the front of the shaker. I also don't want to put items in the shaker because I don't want anything to stop my items from moving around inside. But you could, and please do whatever you feel is best. You could just put elements inside of the shaker. Now you could also cut the bottom of the shaker out with pattern paper as your background instead of these Distressed Oxide inks. I'm going to put that over to the side to dry, and I'm going to get out my Misty. I find the Misty very helpful to do this next step. For demonstration purposes, I am going to put a piece of cardstock behind the acetate so you can see it best. But this is not a step that you have to do. And I have picked out the saying from the stamp set that says, "It's a penguin, we go." Oh, no, it's penguin to look a lot like Christmas. Now, a tip is to take your frame and put it down on the acetate. It's very important to do this because I did not do this at first, and I ended up covering up some of my words. So this allows me to get the placement. And because I'm going to be putting the penguins that are caroling, I decided that I would use the music notes in the set also. And I also recommend that you check your placement a couple times. You're going to see that I do check my placement. I even want to put my image on here, so you need to get your images done ahead of time because you want to make sure it doesn't cover up anything. If you remember from the samples, the snowmen did cover up more of the ornament, and I don't want them to cover up the words. When you do take this, a lot of times the acetate will come back up, so you want to reset it and make sure it's in the proper place before you put on your StazOn ink. Yes, you do want to use StazOn ink. StazOn ink is great because it will not smear on the acetate, and I'm using the cotton white color. I think this will go good with the snow scene. Whoops, I left the little plastic piece on. And I will stamp this down, and it will only take one time to get a good impression. And I do clean it off with StazOn cleaner, and then I wipe it off with some water. But it easily comes off. And I will set this also to the side. But don't worry about the StazOn ink. It's easy to get off, but you don't want it to leave it sit there for a long time. Now I'm going to put my ornament together. And I apologize because during this demonstration, part of my ornament was cut off. But see how I got color on the back of this ornament? Well, the piece that we cut out the second time is going to cover up that, and it's really going to finish that off. But I'm not ready to adhere that down yet. But it gives you a nice place to write. It gives you a nice place to not write, just so it's a pretty ornament hanging on the tree. I also put in snow using a gel pen in the other ornaments, and I want to do the same here. So I will just draw in snow, and I use this gel pen to put snow on all my cards that I make with winter scenes. It's really quick, it's inexpensive, and I think that it just adds a little bit to this background because the shaker is, a snow shaker with the penguins and with the snowmen. I'm going to adhere down using my Barely Art glue the background. And when you do this, make sure not to put too much glue again. And you want to make sure too that you get it centered up properly to make it look correct. So just take your time, and I know that you can do this. It's very rather simple, and assembling these ornaments is really rather quick. So I'll just put something on top of that for a moment and let that dry. Once it's dried, I'm going to add my shaker elements. Now, I don't know where I got these shaker elements. I've collected them over the years, but I've added snowflakes, a little bit of glass beads, and then I'll add some white sequences. And I love to put a lot of shaking material in there because I think that's what makes it fun. There's a kind of a balance. These little containers are absolutely wonderful. I keep all my shaker elements in them. I have this little container that I'll link below that I store all of them, and it's just so much nicer than having little bags of shaker elements all over the place. And I just store that in a drawer beside me. Now I am going to adhere down the acetate. The acetate, I'm going to use glossy accents. I will be using push pins that I got from Hobby Lobby. These are found in the sewing section, and I love using them because I can unclog my glue bottles and my glossy accents when they get clogged up. And you can just throw them away or wipe them off and put them back in your tray. Now I decided to use the glossy accents just in case any seeped with the acetate, that it would be clear. Now we're going to be covering up this rim, but it's just in case, and it will dry, clear. And then we will line this up very well before putting it on the shaker. And I just love the look, how that turned out, even before we've even dressed it up with the frame. But the frame, also, we will put that down with glossy accents, and we just want to make sure everything lines up right, and we have just a little bit of time to do that. We will again use glossy accents, and the reason I'm using this is just because of that acetate. So I like to put that around there just so if it's not white glue and would take away from the shaker. We'll line up the frame on the shaker, and I just love how that frame with the metallic really takes the little ornament shaker up a notch. It really kind of gives it a more professional look. I am going to be putting my Christmas carolers down. I do have a foam strip on the back, and to make this even stronger in case someone wants to use it throughout the years as an ornament on their tree, I'm adding some glossy accents just to make it stronger on that ornament when it's adhered. And I just love how that turned out. Next, we're going to put on the toppers of the ornament. When I put on the toppers of the ornament, I am going to use that glossy accent. But before I put it on, I want to finish this off and cover up the ink. So there I'm going to put that finishing piece on. I'll just use Barely Art glue and put that down. Again, this is optional. If you're not a messy crafter like me, you don't need this nice backing piece, but I wanted to make it look as professional as possible. and I didn't want the ink to show. So to me, it took less than a minute to cut out this just to finish it off and make it look beautiful. You just want to make sure everything lines up just so. And then you will use glossy accents because of the front of the card with the metallic to put down your topper. When you line up your topper, you will line the top up with the very top. And you'll have that hoop that will extend above. And you will see that you'll need to do this on both sides. And it will turn out just wonderful to be able to put your twine or string through, that whatever you want to use. Now, when you adhere this with the twine, you can either put it in when you're going to put it on the package or the bag, or you can do it ahead of time. Because I want this to be an ornament and an option, I'm going to go ahead and put my twine down now. I should have cut this at 12 inches. I ended up having to measure it out again and cut off a little bit. And then I will just feed this through, and towards the top, I will tie a knot and cut off any accents. And this is the fun part, because you can choose different color twine to use on your ornaments. So I chose the red and white because I had the red, but on the purple ornament, I had purple and white. You could do silver and white, black and white. Just really think outside the box of how you want to decorate this. I also just love how this shakes. It brings out the kid in me, and I think it just turned out absolutely adorable. Thank you today for stopping by. If you like this, give it a thumbs up. Tell me what kind of ornament or tag you're going to create using this inspiration in the comments below. See all the wonderful examples. I just really love how all these turned out. I really appreciate again for you stopping by, and I hope to see you next time. Here are some videos from YouTube that you may enjoy for other crafting ideas. See you next time.